Hi, I'm Sam Ramji, President of the CodePlex Foundation.
And I'm Mark Stone, the Deputy Director of the CodePlex Foundation.
The CodePlex Foundation is a nonprofit organization dedicated to expanding on the ability of software companies and open source communities to freely collaborate, to share code and understanding, to create a better software industry and a more sustainable software community. In the last 6 weeks since our founding in mid-September 2009, we've been hard at work getting feedback on our bylaws, our structure, and the mechanisms that we'll use to accept and govern open source projects. What we're looking for are projects that will enable us to really test out the ideals of being able to build a more vibrant software ecosystem through consistently connecting the thousands and thousands of software companies that exist, along with the hundreds of thousands of open source projects that exist. We believe that in so doing, we can enable software developers to really see the value of what they've built in open source projects, and we can enable software companies to overcome some of the hurdles that they've experienced in engaging, embracing, distributing, and contributing to open source projects. What makes the foundation unique is that we're focused on the generalized process of how this contribution happens, as opposed to focusing on any specific technology. And the project acceptance guidelines that we're going to overview today really reinforce that. We are not favoring any particular technology, nor any particular source code hosting site. And in the foundation, we believe that we provide a legal, financial, and governance framework for effective software projects to be able to flourish and thrive sustainably through corporate and community involvement. The Foundation is launching the project acceptance guidelines formally. We have been developing this in draft form for some time, and we're publishing a draft which will continue to update based on what we learn from the projects that we accept. We have some basic philosophies that we think will help us be successful. First, we believe that contribution of ideas and expertise from across the open source industry, across projects, across foundations, and across technology sectors will be crucial. Second, we believe that commercial contribution is going to be essential in mainstreaming the development of open source. And finally, we have an action-oriented philosophy. We want to test everything that we believe through action so that we can improve the processes and the project that we're working on. Those have informed the process that we're outlining today. So Mark, can you outline the project acceptance guidelines that you've been developing? I know you worked with the board of directors, the board of advisors, and a range of people across open source communities to identify what are the right patterns and what's the right orientation for us to be able to accept and host projects within the foundation.
Sure. We've really thought a lot about two key ideas to bring projects into the foundation. One is to make sure that these are projects that have community viability, and the other is to make sure that these are projects that are friendly from a corporate software perspective. So, from a community viability perspective, we want to make sure that the projects we bring in are projects that have some momentum behind them, have some thought behind them, and will get proper guidance as they move forward. We expect, therefore, that while the project may or may not have a lot of code contributed to it yet, it has identified committers. It has a senior or primary committer that leads the project, and that we have a commitment from the people involved in the project that they're going to be engaged in this project for the long term.
And that supports about half of the foundation's mission, right? Making sure that there's community viability and that the open source project exists. What about the other half?
Projects don't come into the foundation in isolation. They'll come into what we call a gallery. And to explain that, let me step back and kind of give the bigger picture for a moment. You can think of the foundation as being modeled on the metaphor, or if you prefer, the design pattern of a museum. Mm-hmm. So a museum has patrons, it has a patronage model by which organizations can support the work of the museum. It has galleries within the museum that contain thematically related works. And we're striving for something like that model with the foundation.
So are you saying open source projects are works of art?
Well, of course they are.
Absolutely.
And great works of art do not flourish without the right patronage and support behind them. So The gallery model enables us to approach corporations who may be interested in connecting to the open source community, connecting to open source projects around specific ideas and technologies, and give them a framework for sponsorship of the foundation, and thus sponsorship of the projects that are associated with that gallery.
So commercially friendly and community viability.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think the foundation plays more than just a structural role here. There's also a mentoring role that it's important for the foundation to be able to play. Projects that are new to the open source community have a lot to learn. There are a lot of best practices that the projects have engaged in that they should get exposure to. We want to make sure that every project has a mentor, every gallery has a gallery manager to guide that community. And we want to make sure also that that's a two-way communication, that it is not just trying to help projects along, but also trying to help corporations and sponsors understand how open source works and understand how projects work.
Right. In our experience, corporations need mentors as well.
Exactly.
So what's the value of a gallery? Why would a project be submitted into a gallery, or why would a corporation want to sponsor a gallery for a set of projects?
I think the value for a project is really, I would frame it a little bit differently. It's the value for developers. One thing that we thought coming